early. Sometimes it's good to be early. But our show starts at a specific time. You should remember that. Let's get started then, shall we?
Dillon, I don't give a what you think about a co-host and freshen up my show.
It might not be flashy, but sometimes you just got to toss another person and make a statement.
My show's about the people's podcast. Everyone has a voice. I don't need a co-host. Go listen to one of the other 5,000 shows with a co-host because they don't have a mouth like the big guy.
Opie, are you a career killer with Tim Sabian, yourself, and many others?
Be myself. Never had real issues with those people. They just understood that I was a different bird. The rest of them, though, I'm like, oh, shut up. I'm paying your salary because the ratings are so good, so shut up.
Right.
Live from
Somewhere.
it's
Dillon.
Good whatever to you whenever you are watching this episode of Co-Host Auditions. I am your co-host, Dillon, looking for a host who can help bring in that sweet, sweet monetization money instead of lingering, building brick by brick. It's nice building brick by brick, having a little community, but boy, would I like a finished brick shithouse. Almost made it 2 minutes without cursing. I think I just have to throw in the towel on attempting to get these monetized when I do reach the minimums, the way I do get out those 4-letter words. Today's host is History Clarified. And this man is not as good looking as Daisy Foco the last time that we went to a very attractive history expert. And, a good buddy. I mentioned you recently, Dave Delafiore. Good morning. I've missed you. And it's because I stopped watching the Shuley Network. There's a few good, beloved chatters, Cardiff's Kids and Dave Delafiore. Once I was like, you know what? I'm not a big fan of Shuley anymore that I miss. But hopefully we will be a fan of History Clarified because... oh boy, am I not a fan of his looks. I am definitely the handsome one out of the pair of us. So, what have you got? Because Daisy Foco, she was very informative and very attractive. So, you're going to have to double up on those informative facts for us to really get on your side, Mr. Clarified, if that is your real name. And like always, I am dressed like my host for the day. We are both wearing a kind of plaid outfit, black and white for me, black, white, and red for Mr. Clarified. I think that's an assumed name, not like somewhere. That's obviously a real name. So, we are talking about riots, and hopefully he will be very articulate in telling us when is it a time for violence? When is violence the answer? Because we're going back to the Revolutionary War here, and riots in the Revolutionary War made us a country that we're still very much having a great time with and very complacent about where we are, letting the duopoly just do things as they wish. So, Mr. Clarified, there's a fire behind you. Are you going to do something about that?
So America's on fire. Let's talk about it. There's been a lot of talk in the discourse recently about rioting and looting. Is it right? Is it effective? Is it moral? Is it even the thing that the news should be focusing on? Is it done by aggrieved parties or by outside agitators? Being a historian, I wanted to look at the history of political violence.
And I didn't know that Jake Hudson was a historian, but Dave, should I say Daffiler? You were, I have been saying Delafiore, but you were christened Dave Daffiler by the great Bob Levy. So I may go back and forth between Delafiore and Daffiler, being what I refer to the beloved chatter joining us today. So, yeah, Jake Hudson, looking better than he usually does. Still not as handsome as I. Neither one of us anywhere as good looking as Daisy Foco, who stopped in the chat the other day. Kind of threw me for a loop. I forgot to go along with the bit. I was just like, well, is this a troll? Is this really Daisy?
violence and rioting in the colonial period and the period of the American Revolution, in order to explore these questions in more depth.
Part 1: Violence in the American Colonies. Colonial rioting and violence was definitely a thing. If you watched my video on whiteness and
Oh boy. Your voice, your tone of voice. I am very tempted to go to 1 1/4 speed, but some viewers cannot stand that. So this is a shorter video than some of the other days. So oh boy, this tone of voice is going to be something we're going to have to overcome, Mr. Clarified.
white identity links up here. I talked about Bacon's Rebellion in 1677 in the Virginia colony.
Kevin Bacon's Rebellion? We all saw that in Footloose. And as we found out in a recent video, I think it was the Daisy Foco video, that was based on Pound, Virginia. And Pound Town, not really based on Footloose. They outlawed dancing. So, yeah, Pound Town, not as gangbang friendly as you would think. They don't even like dancing in a group there.
A mixture of tenant farmers, indentured servants, and black slaves were led by Nathaniel Bacon and attacked Native Americans since they wanted to secure new land. Most Virginians at the time did not own their own land, but rather worked for wealthy landowners, so they formed militias and went west to take it from natives, even though the royal governor, William Berkeley, forbade it. The mob responded by chasing Berkeley out and burning Jamestown to the ground. Burning Jamestown to the ground didn't get the tenant farmers their own.
And Jamestown over at Cinemassacre, James himself burned that to the ground. Boy, did he ever lose the passion for that. And looks like that we may have Uncle Paul as a fan with Nambla TV episode 1 coming up.
Their own land, but rather it acted as a symbol of what they perceived as a source of oppression. Put a pin in this idea because we're going to be coming back to it a few times in this video.
In fact, between the 1660s and 1680s, multiple...
He's got some music underneath of him to help make this tone of voice, which already a minute 19 in, and I've had about enough of, but it's very downtrodden music here. It doesn't help a downtrodden voice.
Colonies had land
This guy does have a following, let's see, 27,000 subscribers, 4,500 views on here. I forgot to show this off on the Wisecrack episode. People were not a fan of that Wisecrack fellow, but he has 3 million fucking subscribers, that guy.
Riots against Native Americans or against any British authority that sought to exert more control on the colonists, especially ones from the Stuart monarchy, because they were spooky Catholics. In the 1740s, farmers in New Jersey rioted to attempt to get 600,000 acres of royal land, and when a lot of their friends were arrested for causing trouble, they had no problem breaking into jails and springing their friends loose. The point is, by the time we even get to the Revolutionary era and the era...
Jailbreak. What's funny is my mind takes me right to the Family Matters episode where Urkel was imprisoned in a Mexican jail, and Carl and Eddie were trying all these wacky ways to get him out of there. Or was it Eddie that was in jail and Carl and Urkel were working together? Any Family Matters aficionados in the chat can help? I think it was Urkel in there. It might have been Eddie. Either way, it was definitely the 3 of them. One of them in jail, and it wasn't Carl. And what a spit in the face of authority by Carl the cop doing a jailbreak in Mexico.
Era of the French and Indian War, we've already seen race riots, land riots, redistribution riots, religious riots against Catholics, riots against any sort of British control, etc.
Oh, the Catholics got their return of their own running of the riots.
Part 2: Violence during the American Revolution. Now, just a note here, I'm going to include events from 1763 to 1783 in this category, since you can't have the revolution without the buildup. An interesting case study of political violence were the Stamp Act riots of 1765. In order to pay for the French...
You're talking about riots. Come on, get a little fun with that. Get some pep in that voice there, buddy. Kind of almost monotone is our buddy Mr. Clarified here.
Indian War, Britain decided to pass this law so that colonists needed stamped royal paper for their documents. Colonists weren't happy about this and viewed it as unjust taxation, and they decided to calmly write a stamped and regulated letter expressing their distrust. No, I'm just kidding, they lost their shit. Tax collector Andrew Oliver of Boston.
And was this in Boston? Yeah, he just said Boston. Notice a lot of the Bostonian, a lot of the riots in early revolutionary were in Boston. So those Boston massholes have just always been that way.
Boston had his carriage house destroyed, his home wrecked, an effigy of him beheaded in front of said wrecked home.
He had his home wrecked, and he didn't even get a hooker or a floozy in the night. That is very impressive, being a home wrecker without one of those. Dave Delafiore pointing out riots are still commonplace in Newark, New Jersey. Oh boy, New Jersey and Philadelphia, two of the ugliest. And I know there's good-looking places of New Jersey, but the places I've been in New Jersey look like Philadelphia. I find them both to be ugly, ugly cities. I'm gonna have to find the non-ugly section. Is there a non-ugly section of Philadelphia? I've been told there is. I have my doubts.
Home, and also rioters drank his booze.
Power to the people. His brother-in-law, Lieutenant Governor Thomas Hutchinson, also had his man.
Knob Creek. Thumbs up on the Knob Creek. I'm a more of a Tullamore Dew guy, but I will take a Knob Creek.
Raided, and at his furnace.
But I will not take a knob in my creek. You need lubrication for that.
Silverware, and paintings stolen. Sounds like a lot of pointless looting. The result of all this rioting was practical success. Oliver did resign from his post along with a slew of other tax collectors. You have mobs successfully turning away British ships that had the stamped official paper in them. You also have regular
kind of like the stamped official paper that you could smoke marijuana with in the early 1900s, but they didn't actually give out those stamped pieces of paper. So, yeah, I thought I was going somewhere with that. Just something of the stamped piece of paper. I'm trying to just interject much more often here with our buddy Clarified. I don't believe I will be doing a second episode on you. I usually don't make that decision 3 minutes into the person's video. But your voice is killing me. It took Wisecrack's video a good halfway through before I was like, no, we're not going to revisit this guy. I don't mind doing some heavy lifting, but this is second episode in a row doing heavier lifting than before.
Protests, boycotts against businesses that were using the stamps, and pressure put against judges and any sort of royal entity that was trying to use the stamps as well. And judges in some royal entities were successfully pressured into not following the Stamp Act. While the Sons of Liberty did publicly decry the violence, they also benefited from it.
Oh boy. I did not get a backup video, but even if I did, it would still be Mr. Clarified here, because I do like to stick with one host per episode unless we've got a theme going. You're going to make me fall back and go to another Daisy Foco video, the way that you're just droning on through this video, this one from 3 years ago that has 4,500 views.
And to help their movement, and in the end they had to acquiesce to it so that they weren't caught up in it. In the case of the Stamp Act riots, we can see that the violence, the peaceful protests, and the looting and ransacking, including the royal mansions, all kind of went together. This quote from Gary B. Nash in his work, The Unknown American Revolution, The Unruly Birth of Democracy and the Struggles to Create America, is talking about the Stamp Act riots, but I want you...
You're talking about something exciting here. This is a riot video. And Dave Daffler, I'm going to have to look this up. If History Clarified goes into the history of how paint dries video, let's go ahead and switch gears here for a moment. See what is going on with this channel 7 months ago, 11 months ago. Okay, so this does appear to be a channel that is not very active. 2 years. Okay, a very uncommon poster is this guy. Not like in. I was trying to make a joke about posters in the 90s that I had on my wall, but I couldn't think of the Tupac marijuana poster. Stay away there, Duke Phillips. I came around to the poster that everyone in the 90s had a common poster, but this is more of a rare poster here. Oh yeah, this is how I found this guy, White. His historical video essay on race and identity. And do we go over to that one? Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and throw in the towel. Less than 4 minutes in on the history of riots, and now check out this video essay on being a white guy. Because can't be worse, can it? Can't be.
mostly German heritage, I'm sure no one would question my whiteness.
I thought I was mostly German heritage too. German and Polish is what I was told, but English apparently more than I was expecting. Hello, Sir Vosif. Um, this guy, History Clarified, made Riots so boring within the first 4 minutes. We are moving on to his video essay about being a white guy. So here we go. It can't. It cannot be as boring as you would think. Talking about being a milk toast white guy would be more boring than a riot. But let's see. Let's get at least 4 minutes into this video and see if we throw in the towel like we did on the boring riot video. Maybe we'll visit it again. Maybe we'll jump ahead. But I need to mix it up. Good Lord, Mr. Clarified.
Especially not founding father Benjamin Franklin.
Why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements and by herding together
It wasn't the Boers, it was the Boops.
establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us?
They're a colony of aliens because they are ant people. They cannot help what they were born as, being the ant people, and they are the ones with the flying saucers going around. Watching Puzzle Box and the weekly UAP report, I am now convinced that the Greys are not from outer space, but are from the interior of the world. So thank you, Hack Ride, for introducing me to the concept that the Greys are actually ant people and not space people.
Instead of our anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion. The number of purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. All Africa is black or tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers wholly so, and in Europe.
Isaac Walmart has a new term, ball washer. And who's this guy ball washing? This is an infrequent YouTube poster here, Mr. History Clarified, who was so boring talking about riots. I went over to his video about being white. I figured this would be much more boring, but here we go. Churning butter, a hobby or a chore. In the Amish community, it is both.
In Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also, the Saxons only excepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face.
Okay, now you're giving me a big wall of text like our buddy Kaz Rowe on that episode about the history of moving pictures. Okay, I guess that was the intro. You had a big Chris Chan wall of text in the intro of your video, and now you're putting on whiter face? Content warning, racist language, racist political cartoons. Coming from the Hackverse community, I hear a bunch of cheers of that.
This video is a historical exploration of the concept of whiteness, where it comes from, how it's been used.
Oh, and now our shirts don't match. We were a nice, good-looking host and co-host with our matching shirts, and now you got on a stripy shirt. I've got a stripy shirt that could have matched you. You had to be so damn boring in your riot video.
Used over time and how it's changed. Even if you don't agree with everything in the video, I invite you to stick around and see if you learned something. As you can see from Franklin's essay, many groups that we consider white in America today, like the Germans, the French, the Swedes, the Russians, the Swedes, really, Ben, the Swedes, were to him swarthy or dark. The point here is that even if someone is from Northern or Central Europe,
not white, according to Ben. Well, what does Ben know? He's a rat.
They haven't always been considered white in America. Let's dive deeper into the concepts of whiteness and white identity and see if we can find out what white even means.
Part 1. Race and whiteness.
To understand this, we need to understand that race is a social construct. That means how people view someone.
Let's remember that in the old Western days, Irish were not white folk. They were very much discriminated against. And that was actually something that bothered the shit out of me out of the new quantum leap, the wokedom leap, is that back in the old Western times, you still had to have the minority of nowadays representing the minority of back then, when it should have been an Irish woman to represent the minority of late 1800s.
Someone's race, whether it's white, black, Asian, etc., isn't determined by one's DNA, but rather how society views them. Meaning, I'm white because if you ask 10 people, 9 out of the 10 would say I'm white, with the 10th being Ben Franklin, of course.
If you look at this video here by Innuendo Studios, he illustrates this point by looking at Barack Obama. While he had one black parent and one white parent, society, not his DNA, has decided that he is the first black president. I recommend you give the
that's how fractions work in our American race. Mulatto 50% black equals black in America, and Louis C.K. actually a Mexican man born in Mexico. There's a fun clip of him and Patrice talking about his heritage. But it was very white people live in certain parts. Argentina, Honduras, aren't they white? Light-skinned, so red-headed, white-skinned Mexican Louis C.K., white guy, because that's just the culture that we're in.
Give the video a watch. I'll link it up here.
In America, for example, you have the one drop of blood rule. This basically stated that if you had any traceable black ancestry, you were considered black. What this means is you could have someone with a majority of European DNA that is still considered by society to be black. In fact, not all people with any sort of African ancestry define themselves this way, and other countries...
Plessy versus Ferguson, I believe that was the court case where a person that was 1/5 African American was considered to be full African American and therefore property and not people, resided on by Judge Tawney, who Tawnytown, Maryland is named after. So nice going, Tawnytown, Maryland.
Countries don't always use this either. So it shows that the idea of race is malleable. It does change. Looking at the one drop of blood rule, we actually see that whiteness isn't so much defined by what it is, but rather what it isn't.
The one drop of blood rule as seen in The Thing. That is how you judge if a person is white, is if you hurt the one drop of their blood and it reacts independently of that person.
Click here for a video by the channel Thought Slime to explore a less historical version of the same concept. By now, hopefully you're with me in the idea that race doesn't come from one's DNA or even ancestry, but rather how society perceives them. This isn't to say that race doesn't affect people.
Where's the racist political cartoons? I was promised racial humor, which, by the way, is something that we've lost. Racial humor is just grouped in to racist humor. There is a difference. Sal Governale did not understand the intricacies. I'll work on saying that word out loud before I try to break it out in public again. But Sal Governale did not quite understand racial versus racist when telling jokes.
In fact, how society perceives one can affect how they're treated economically, socially, and politically. As a white person, I think it's time that we start to critically analyze even the idea of whiteness and white identity. For now,
you're sending me down the commando quote with that chat there, Isaac Walmart. That's what I thought you'd said, Dillon. That's why we're going to do you last. And then you're going to have me hanging over a cliff. Remember when we said we'd do you last? We lied. God, I love Commando.
For now, let's move on to some of the roots of whiteness in America, and let's see how it's changed over time.
Part 2, Bacon's Rebellion and Whiteness in America.
Let's begin by saying that institutionalized racism and slavery is not unique to the United States. It's also that racism and an acknowledgement that race existed did occur in the United States before the 1670s. In Edmund Morgan's work, American Slavery,
That's just the way things are. As with the episode of Fairly Odd Parents taught all kids everywhere that when everyone was turned into a gray blob, that the next door neighbor, Gilbert Gottfried, still found a way to be racist about it. We are the most grayest and average.
freedom.
It's just people looking to put themselves above someone else just on basis alone. I could be a terrible person, and I don't need any accomplishments, but I'm better than them because of reasons.
He shows how in the Virginia colony before Bacon's Rebellion, there wasn't as much emphasis put on race or racial language, even in regards to slavery. Let's get some background on Bacon's Rebellion and see how it changed things in America.
Oh, I got mixed up. Isaac Walmart was going for a quote from The Thing, but I just immediately went to Commando with that quote. God, do I love me some Commando. I already said that once. Okay, no more praising Commando. More quotes from Commando accepted, but I've blown Commando enough for this show.
The idea of white and its contrast with black gains more prominence after 1677.
Whoa. What is with this Beetlejuice music, sir? That doesn't sound very DMCA friendly. Dave Daffler is a sickle cell anemia racist. It only attacks one race. That fucking sickle cell anemia. We are going to banish them. We are going to cancel sickle cell anemia for not attacking all races. And let me just jump a little bit in this video here, because fucking DMCA strike. What's the matter with you? What do you think? You're all white and privileged or something? You can just play Beetlejuice music?
Virginian settlers kept encroaching into their lands, trying to find some property to call their own. Nathaniel Bacon led a group of militia to attack nearby natives, thereby taking class
Bacon. I've got to get some Homer Simpson something drops.
tensions.
There's a lot of from Homer Simpson.
Turning them into racial tensions. Bacon and his men then turned their eyes on Governor Berkeley. They blamed him for not allowing them to carry out reprisals against Native Americans and also for denying them the right to go seize native land. What made this event unique and dangerous in the eyes of the wealthy landowners was that it was an alliance of tenant farmers, European indentured servants.
How are you making fires and riots boring again?
And black or African slaves. Morgan argued that before the 1660s and Bacon's Rebellion, it might have been difficult to distinguish race prejudice from class prejudice. He cites different racial groups in the lower classes working together and even cohabitating. If this united front of the lower classes turned their eyes to the landowners, they might threaten to destroy the whole tenant farming system or even the institutions of slavery.
That's a different version than we played up in Maryland. Dave Daffler asking if anyone else played Cowboys and Caucasians as kids. Yeah, a little bit a different version there just below the Mason-Dixon line in Maryland that we played of Cowboys versus Caucasians.
Slavery and servitude. The result was that after Bacon's Rebellion, we see an increase in racialized language surrounding servitude and slavery, to make it less about class or land and more about white and non-white. This was put into law in 1705 when the Virginia House of Burgesses passed slave acts that worked to restrict black slaves, empower white owners, but most of all to socially divide white and black people. By
socially divide? You have some awkwardness to your monotoneness at times.
Driving a racial wedge between the lower classes, the wealthy landowners could keep these lower classes from uniting and turning on them.
To quote Morgan, the answer to the problem...
Well, what was up with that? What was up with that quote? You couldn't take a second take there? That's more of a Zoomer thing, to do takes in the middle. You messed up the quote that bad. Just start from the very start. Take 2, take 3. That really gets me. The Zoomers are very into that, but look at you. You're not a Zoomer. You're a millennial or an Xer.
From uniting and turning on them.
To quote Morgan, the answer to the problem...
That cut makes me laugh a whole lot. That used to be so unacceptable, and now it's just a thing in all video essays. All right, what is this quote?
If unspoken and only gradually recognized, was racism. To separate dangerous free whites from dangerous black slaves by a screen of racial contempt. Bacon's Rebellion is important because it shows us that not only can the concept of whiteness change, but it can also change in importance. We see here that whiteness was weaponized and was...
Oh, yes, it'll change in importance one day. Once again, going to a Louis C.K. joke. Do you think we're going to go from 1 to 2? Oh, no way. That was him talking about wanting a time machine anywhere in the past, but not in the future. We are going to get fucked so hard. Yeah, the jump cuts mid sentence is just so accepted nowadays in video essays, Secret Snake, and that's something that I don't like to do. And I believe Kaz Rowe made a good effort to have something up on screen when when she was making cuts like that. Oh, I missed the Captain Morgan appearance in here. Husey Entertainment is very happy. Finally, a show with a white guy hosting. Our time is now. Plus, he's hot. Oh, Husey thinking that he's the more handsome of the two of us. All right, good. Good thing here, Mr. Clarified. You are bringing in some of the homosexual audience. And if Husey is not a homosexual, the deeply closeted, the people who can just appreciate. There are men who can just appreciate another good-looking man. Maybe that is where Husey falls in, because I believe I spoke out of turn calling you a homosexual, sir. I believe you just appreciate a fine-looking gentleman like Mr. Clarified.
Was used as a tool to divide lower classes by race. For a second time in this study, we see whiteness more defined by what it isn't rather than what it is. For now, let's look at examples for how it's changed over time.
Part 3. Why do you hate me, Ben Franklin? Germans and white identity.
Ben Franklin's 1751 essay might sound surprisingly familiar when it comes to debates on issues of race and
I'm doing this thing. I do it when I'm a co-host of a man or any host who I find just to be insufferably boring. I am talking around you. I am not adding to you at this point in the program. Husey is not gay, but he does get confused with watching John Cena movies, and the Oscars. Oh boy, little good old handsome naked John Cena got a lot of people. And Peacemaker, fucking Peacemaker is my favorite show on air. I cannot wait until season 2 comes back. John Cena, fantastic actor. Who would have thought with all the years of corny, shitty WWE that he would be like one of my favorite actors out there, teaming up with oh shit, why can I not remember my favorite director's name? I'll remember it in a minute and then kick myself for forgetting his name, which I've said over and over and over again. A power bottom is the woke term.
in immigration. What did we ever do to you, Ben? He's worried about white Anglos becoming aliens in their own settlements by a darker group of people coming in and refusing to assimilate, but rather forcing their cultures and mannerisms on the whites who were already there, thus destroying white people and white culture. So there you go. That's Founding Father
James Gunn. I know you're talking about Ben Franklin, but the little hamster got on the wheel and reminded me of my favorite director's name being James Gunn, who used to be married to Pam from The Office, but she's even more annoying in real life, apparently, than she was as a character on The Office, because he done got rid of her. No longer married to that lady. Amy Schumer, John Cena outclassed her in her own movie. He's got a classic joke here, does Husey? Amy Schumer is so fat, she's doing a spin-off show, Pizza Maker. Isaac Walmart, send this guy to prison. Then he'll learn about race being a social construct. Well, he's going to be the Tobias Beecher, is what he's going to do. He is going to be a little bitch of the top guy of the Aryan gang, and then he will go so loony crazy that he's just kind of his own gang before turning to homosexuality with Chris Maloney. And who wouldn't turn to homosexuality with Chris Maloney in a place filled with only guys with those dreamy eyes? And if you would like to see Chris Maloney pissing into a bucket, Oz season 6, that's Oz season 6 was the last season of Oz was bad. Was it 7 seasons, 6 seasons, whatever it was? The last season stinks, but you will point and laugh when a scene opens. I believe the camera is panning as well. So they had one opportunity to pan this shot to get Chris Maloney pissing in a bucket, unless he is some type of talented pisser. Husey, I want James Gunn to marry Cardi B so that her name will be Cardi Gun. I do love those old, those old. What if this married that? I still hear that on morning radio, and they are reaching more than ever. I've never heard of a person named Brains, but if Claudia Schiffer married Marky Brains, she would be Claudia Schiffer Brains.
Author Benjamin Franklin, founder of the white genocide myth. I'm not going to cover that myth and disprove it because that video already exists. You can check it out here by Sean, and I highly recommend it. And if you're one of those people who thinks that white genocide is actually happening, Ben Franklin spent his whole life waiting for it, and he's super dead, and it still hasn't happened. It should sound pretty odd to us because these groups, the French, the Germans, the Swedes, the Russians, are definitely considered.
You got to genocide before you got to the racial, political cartoons? How dare you, sir? Oh, Electra, you are tuning into an episode where I am really lifting some heavy weights, but I did get a workout with Wisecrack last week. So 2 in a row where I am doing some heavy lifting, and I can see why this man does not post very often anymore.
Considered white today, but he considered them not only not white, but an existential threat to the idea of whiteness. That said, these same arguments, the lack of assimilation, the changing of complexion, and a loss of overall white character, are the same arguments you hear in the discourse.
You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
Course about immigration today. Speaking of immigration, let's look at the Irish.
Part 4. The Irish.
All right. I was about to get rid of just go to our next segment, but here we go. The Irish. I've already mentioned this. So tell us about the history of Irish not being white before they were welcomed in. Come on, Irish. Come on, Italians. Welcome to whiteness.
Irish in the periphery of whiteness. The Irish are another group that have been perceived as either white, non-white, or sort of partially white throughout American history. Irish immigrants.
It's them damn freckles. They were or the sunburn, either the freckles or the sunburn that reminded the old people of the skinned Injuns, as they called them, and we're like, nah, you're not in our club. You can't be part of this club.
In the 1800s, especially the majority of Catholic ones,
no Irish need apply.
A lot of discrimination in the United States. You even have the Know-Nothings and other nativists organizing political parties to limit or prevent Irish immigration. Let's examine some political cartoons. Here is one portraying the Irish as violent subhumans, and I hate to tell you, but this ape-like portrayal is not uncommon. This cartoon here does label the Irish as white nominally, but I think you can see that it's
portraying... Oh boy, there is the racial 1800s cartoons that I wanted.
Them as less than human looking and comparable to Southern Black Americans. Pretty messed up, but it does illustrate the views of people at the time. And if you look at this one, this is literally like we must protect.
Whites are Irish are equal to black folk, which in 1800 we know what that political artist was going for.
The future of our white children idea. I don't think I have to say why that's racist or white supremacist. While religion is a major factor, you can see that the Irish are at best portrayed as on the periphery of white, if not non-white.
In fact, in his book, How the Irish Became White,
there, we definitely have a different sound quality. That's something that isn't as bad as that cut during, but yeah, anytime that you're going to do audio after the fact, it's hard to match it up. Dave Daffler, indeed, Michael Jackson confused the crap out of everyone so much that when all of his children were whitey white, people didn't question it. Like, oh, look, he's a white man. No, Joe Jackson was his father, were those kids' grandfathers. They were half black because Michael Jackson was a fully black man and did have the the vitiligo. He did have that disease which bleaches your skin, and he just steered into it. But he kept denying everything. Oh boy, those Michael Jackson nose jobs, where eventually it just became an upturned open space in his face, and he wouldn't admit to any of those. No, I didn't bleach my skin. No, I didn't get plastic surgery. He had a big old Joe Jackson nose that and had too many surgeries until it just disappeared.
White, Noel Ignatieff argues that the Irish use opposition to and violence against African Americans to distinguish themselves as white. We see again and again, whiteness isn't defined so much by what it is as by what it's not. We can see a violent example of this with the draft riots in 1863 in New York City. And although those had multiple causes...
Oh no, he's talking about riots. We saw how boring he can be when talking about an exciting subject.
But we can still see this in the form of violence from Irish Americans against...
I think there should be more violence on TV.
African Americans.
To borrow a quote from Sarah Hines in her article, Not White, Not Quite, Irish Identities in the U.S. Census and in Anne
Sarah Hines. So she's got a ketchup fortune behind her?
Pratchett's novel, Run. Who was white changed over time, and even groups could move between the core, periphery, or completely outside the scope of whiteness depending on circumstances.
Between distancing themselves from African Americans and enmeshing themselves with institutions like the civic service, police, fire, having different parades, etc., the Irish eventually moved from the periphery of whiteness into the core. They were successful in carving out a place for themselves as white by contrasting themselves against people who were black. Do you see the pattern about how we define whiteness yet? The fact is, when you hear people on the right talking about preserving white values, whiteness, or white culture, they're making the same arguments as Benjamin Franklin, but they're shooting at a...
Okay, when the ant people, when the Greys do come out and decide they are going to invade, and they try to... get themselves into our society or invade our society, who will win the war of black guy next to ant people, gray alien of we're just one of you? That'll be a fun little contest to see who the racial people pick in that one.
At a moving target. They're not even arguing about the same white people, the same whiteness, and the same white culture as Ben Franklin was. The definition of whiteness has already changed, and it's going to continue to change. They're trying to defend an artificial construct that exists mostly as a contrast to things that aren't.
Okay, can you throw up another political cartoon again here? I would take this opportunity to Command-Shift 3 his open mouth for the next episode of Co-Host Audition that he's in, but no, no more visitations to History Clarified. Hey, he kind of looks like Darkside Phil in that, doesn't he? Looks like he could be the brother of Darkside Phil, Darkside Bill here. It kind of even has a similar shirt to Darkside Phil, but he went off and got himself a job. Did History Clarified? He's not begging for tips.
Aren't
white. And that goatee, wow! I'm surprised I didn't notice this before. Darkside Bill?
How can people worry about or try to defend whiteness when it's not even really a defined concept?
Part 5, Why It Matters Today.
Let's run a thought.
Okay. I wanted to get to that part when he introduced the title of the Irish and race. Let's go ahead and call it a day with History Clarified. We don't need this final segment. I know you're trying to wrap it up with this conclusion to your video essay here, but actually that can help drive all my 6 viewers over to your channel to get you some more views. If you would like to see how this concludes, check out History Clarified. Yes, Isaac Walmart, can we just go back to talking about Electra's booby video? Oh, I will have to get that video from Hackride and Electra. It both plugs their products and has some boobies in it. So I am going to have to send a request for that video that I can plug the Hackride t-shirts and get some boobies at the same time. If you come out with a low-cut variety of t-shirt Hackride, that would be even better. Over there at the T Public store. Oh boy, do they have some fun stuff over at T Public. I don't have any of them within arm's reach. I often have a pile of folded laundry right here, just ready to go into the drawer that just doesn't quite make it. Secret Steak, no more Dark Side shill. It's been a while since I dropped by the Dark Side Phil videos, and we are going to get to our next segment in just a moment. We're going to see some dog wars. So if you'll just stick through my shill segment for a moment, we are going to get to some cute little doggies having some war of the words, war of the barks. Thank you for checking this video out. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll be back with Annie soon talking about Arkham Knight on What Is This Game? I've got a Discord, Spurgtopia Discord you can find me in, Dillon from somewhere at gmail.com, Dillon from somewhere at gmail.com. I'll be back tomorrow with TikTok around the clock at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll be loud in the apartment Thursday, so I'm going to just allow the loudness to win, not compete with that. No Thursday episode this week, and next week, no Thursday episode again, because I will be in Tampa for WATP Live. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sticking through to that segment. And that picture looks like a Duggar cookout. Oh boy, the Duggars. Right indeed, Dave Daffler. So on to the doggies having a bit of a war themselves. We have a corgi versus a golden retriever in between a piece of glass. So let's see how this war goes with these two doggies here. Wait, I'll take a sip of water first. So once he gets on the other side of the glass, the water is okay. We have an armistice as I try to get to the water. And then barking continues as he gets to the opposite side of the glass. Oh, hey, guy, how's it going? You're just sitting there. Nice to see you. Well, look, this corgi is into starting the war. This corgi is into starting the shit. He knows once he gets behind the glass, that's when the battle can begin. Something about a separation that makes these dogs very pissed off. They can be right in front of each other and be cool with each other. But if we're separated, we're fucking throwing down. Yep. Now, once again, it gets on the same side as him. Separation. And we're pissed. I believe Dave Daffler saying the water fountain was labeled whites only. It was actually goldens only, because we've got golden here and a golden and white on the corgi's coat. So it must have been goldens only that the water fountain was labeled as. Yeah, if it was whites only, then that golden retriever couldn't have it. So that was a goldens only water fountain that stopped the barking once the corgi came over, because it was acceptable for him to drink out of that doggy fountain. And here, since this video was supposed to be about riots, I found this video of a dog that is good to have on your side. He is a good long distance shooter, or at least short distance shooter. Two for two. And he's got his workout shirt on as he throws those rubber bands at those balloons. 3 for 3. So we will have that dog on the slinging side. We will have the corgi and the golden retriever on the front lines to be our intimidation factor. And now on to the segment that always closes out the show, Clown Ladies. Here we have Bouncy Clown. Been a while since we've seen Bouncy Clown, and she is a fan of puppets and very much like our community, it appears she's a bigger fan of puppets than she is a ventriloquist, as we've seen with Tukey and 2K, that their operators are off camera. If I do get to my Mr. Winston show, I will be off camera myself and having him on, because I also stink at ventriloquism skills. And not shooting you, Secret Snake. We have a dog sniper, a dog sharpshooter on our side from that last video. And here, instead of doing her talking off screen, Bouncy Clown just has some pre-recorded clips of someone else. It's very popular on TikTok to take pre-recorded clips and just and just lip sync over them.
I have not had any close encounters, and I'm pissed. And I'm trying to figure out what makes me not good enough for aliens. I definitely don't want to think it's anything negative about me, because I'm doing everything that you would possibly do to get abducted. I read all the shit. I stay out late by myself. I have a little keyboard and I play the do-do-do-do-do all the time.
And that is their favorite song, do-do, do-do-do. And I did that all wrong. No wonder they haven't showed up to me playing the keyboard. I have been hitting that Close Encounters of the Third Time bit with my own little stank thrown on it, and that is why the aliens haven't maybe that's what you've been doing as well. You've been throwing your own little stank on the do-do-do-do-do. You got to keep it at that pace in order for the aliens to come and show up and release all of the people who haven't aged at all that they kidnapped. Time works differently up there in space. One more with Bouncy Clown and another puppet.
When people are like, oh my God, you're crazy. What are you on? The autism spectrum.
Me too. Me too, Bouncy Clown. Could use a little bit of practice with your lip syncing on the puppet. So
people are like, oh my God, you're crazy. What are you on? The autism spectrum.
Yeah. You kept that the open way too long. So even though that you are not doing the ventriloquism yourself, on that skill, maybe, I was going to have some suggestions. But as I said, I'm a shitty ventriloquist myself. I will be off camera with Mr. Winston as our 2K off camera with theirs. That's all for today's episode. Coming in at a little bit short because, good Lord, Mr. History Clarified, it's nice that you found a hobby in making YouTube videos about history, but you need a little bit of fun. You need a little bit of something. You need a little bit of a co-host. Yeah, come back. I can help get a little fun dust on your, and not that fun dust that we usually go for. That type of fun dust we probably shouldn't talk about in public because it's illegal. I owe you 10 minutes of show, says Secret Snake. Just take it off the TikToks. Those run a little bit over an hour, whereas this one's running a little bit under an hour. Be back tomorrow with more TikToks. And yeah, both the clips are running a bit longer than 20 minutes. So you should get back that 10 minutes tomorrow. And I wanted to do a Thursday show. I was planning with my co-host Secret Snake to do another episode of the successful failures. But yeah, going to be loud in the apartment. I should have buttoned that. I look low class with that unbuttoned, don't I? But yeah, we will have a successful failure possibly next week, probably coming at you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, because in Tampa for WATP Live, any of the beloved chatters that are going to be at WATP Live, let's hang out. Let's do some stuff. And yeah, the cable guy, I believe, will be next on successful failures. I've got my list of people to have on co-host auditions, and there's some type of anxiety I have of bothering people to be on my show. It's a good thing that's only a sometimes show with the anxiety of bothering people to book them on Chatting with Beloved Chatters. If you would like to help me overcome that anxiety and reach out to me at dillonfromsomewhere@gmail.com, DILLON from somewhere at gmail.com to be a guest on Chatting with Beloved Chatters, then you're doing my work for me. Maybe it is a good thing I didn't get that job booking guests as a producer. Building up content, plus I can do that shit. But booking guests, that's a weakness of mine. And I believe I've rambled on enough. And we had a few new people in today, a few regulars in today. Thanks for sticking with me with the boringness. Hopefully I overcame it. I think I overcame this boringness better than I did the wisecrack boringness, which Hackride agreed. That guy was a bit tough. I didn't think I was coming in with the heavy lifting that I need, with that much heavy lifting for wisecrack, but I was prepared today. I was prepared. For someone Yuzi is attracted to, I was more attracted to Daisy Foco. And yeah, that's all for today. Be back tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Next week, Monday through Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Thank you all for joining. Now feel free to go away.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.
Places all. All join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right, dear honey, with the right left date. Grand right and left, around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girl. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LS, MFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.